Hello and welcome to another Google Spreadsheets for Beginners lesson. And this is lesson number 5. This is going to be a pretty short lesson, but also one that is very useful. Today we're going to be talking about handy shortcuts, a couple of handy shortcuts that will help you out a lot in Google Sheets. Just a quick reminder, bottom right of this video, there's a little settings cog wheel. If you click that, you can make sure you're watching this in 1080p or the highest available video resolution for you, so that things are clear and you can see them. And also you can speed up the speed of the video playback if you want to hear me talk a little faster. So don't forget that that is there. Let's jump over to our spreadsheet. I'm going to disappear and we're going to look at the spreadsheet, and here are the shortcuts. They're all laid out right here for you. Control Z is undo, Control Y is redo, Control A select all, Control space select column of table, and Control Shift select row of table. I'm going to explain these bottom 3 to you. The first 2 probably don't need explanation, but I'm still going to demo them for you because I think they're very important. And here's why. Let's go over to this table. Now this is a small table without much, but people a lot of times get afraid when they're working with spreadsheets, especially. They're afraid they're going to screw something up. They're going to make a mistake. What if we type in grapes and we say 300 and we didn't mean to do that? Or we thought we were on a different spreadsheet and we typed in something totally unrelated. We put Mrs. Smith and 3 and we meant to put that on the driver's seat, whatever. That's kind of a lame example, but the point is you can always go back. You can always undo. And this comes especially when you're not just typing something in, but when you're moving a column as we did before. I can just undo. But you can see this shows you those little shortcuts. So of course you can just use your cursor, but instead of using my cursor, I'm just going to hit Control Z and undo, Control Z and undo, Control Z, undo, Control Z. And if I say, wait a second, I want to redo that, Control Y. So Control Y, redo, Control Y, redo. So very easy and handy to do. Again, that was kind of a lame example, but if I'm over here on this and I highlight this and I want to move this, but I forget that if I want to move the entire column, I'm supposed to click on the column, and instead I click over here on the side and I move this to the beginning, and instead of moving it, it actually just took the contents and dropped them there, and I'm like, oh no, I just lost my student 3-digit numbers and I have this empty column here. That's not what I wanted. No big deal. I can just simply undo by Control Z. Control Z, and now the names are back where they were before I did that. So that's why those are so handy. And if I decide, wait a second, you know what? I did want that there. Control Y, and boom, it's just back. Control Y is to redo. Control Z is to undo. So very simple, but very handy to use. Control Z, Control Y. Of course, you also have these 2 buttons in the top left corner there, and those are also easy and quick to hit. So good chance, I know I tend to use those as much as I use Control Z and Control Y, but sometimes the Control are the same. And if you're on a Mac, just replace Control with I think Command key, and it does the same thing. Now Control A for select all, that's actually a more useful little shortcut. We're going to go over to this table. So we're on this worksheet, and within a worksheet, the columns and rows that contain data are often called a table or a data table. So this would be my data table. Now I just selected my table by just clicking and dragging because it's really small. But you can also use that Control A. If you hit Control A once, it selects everything that's in your table. So things that have columns that have titles and rows that have data. If you click it a second time, Control A, it selects everything. Now if you recall before, we talked about how you could select everything by clicking this empty box in the top left hand corner. But that selects everything, even columns that you're not using and don't have any data in them. So that's why if you're anywhere inside of a table and you hit Control A the first time, it selects a table. You can see that a little bit better if we head over to our student info sheet, and you can see kind of where this sheet goes, how much does 21 lines and goes through column K. And if I'm in here and I hit Control A, you can see it selects my entire table. Now, even though there's no money owed in here because I haven't done anything with that, or money paid, because they have titles up at the top of the column, Google knows this is part of this table, and so it selects the whole table. If I hit Control A again, it selects the whole sheet. Now you can also hit it a third time and it deselects. So you can quickly go from selecting just the table to the whole sheet to nothing. Easy to jump between those using Control A. Very handy. Now there's the last two shortcuts are kind of equally as handy, and that's to select the content in a column or a row of a table. And I'll show you why this is important. And this is Control Space and Control Shift. So we're going to go again back over to Funds, and I'm going to hit Control Space, and you see it selected the column. It didn't select the entire column, all these empty cells that aren't part of my table. It just selected what appears to be part of this table in this column. Likewise, if I click there and hit Shift Space, then it selects the entire row. If you hit it again, Shift Space, then it goes the entire thing. It's just like Control A. The first time, it's just what's in the table. The second time, it's the entire row. But of course, that you could also do just by clicking on the row number. And that's, generally, if you wanted the entire thing, you just click on the row number or the letter heading of the column, and you'll get the whole column. But a lot of times, pretty often, you want to select an entire column, but only the column that's part of your data table that has data in it. So in that case, Control Space, now you've selected just the column that's part of your table, or Shift Space for the row. That comes in, with something like this, I could do that just by clicking and dragging, like we did before. Click and drag, and now I've selected that entire row, but that's a really small table. If you go to Student Info, then it's a little bit of a better example. Control Space, I'm selecting the entire column, the content that's in the column. But because these are, this has quite a bit of data in it, it's a little bit better of an example of why you want to do this. And you might have a sheet that had 100 lines. And you don't want to click here and have to drag down to line 100 because that would take forever. But if you just click here and Control Space, that would select all of your data. Oh, I clicked it too much. Control Space one time. Then that would select all of your data all the way down to the end of your data. Now if you do it a second time, that's when it selects the entire thing. And you can know because it highlights the heading as well. So let's jump back over so you can see that in action. If I hit Control Space once, it selects my data and selects the column with data, but you can see this column header is still gray, just to indicate what column I'm in. If I hit it a second time, you can see it darkens. That lets you know, hey, you've selected the entire thing. Same thing with rows. If I hit Shift Space, then it selects everything, and you can see the number of that row is just slightly gray, the same way it is when you click inside a cell, just to let you know, hey, that's where you are. But if I hit Shift Space a second time to select the entire row, including all the empty cells, then it darkens to let you know now you've got the entire row selected, not just the row of your table. So anyway, those are the shortcuts. Control Z for undo, Control Y for redo, Control A for select all. Remember, hitting it once selects just your table, and hitting it a second time selects the entire worksheet. Doing it a third time deselects all of that. Control Space to select the column of a table. Once will just be of the table. If you do it a second time, it'll do the entire column for the entire worksheet. And same thing with Control Shift, once, selects the row of the table. If you do it a second time, it'll select the entire row. And for an Apple, just change the control to command, and it works the same way. Anyway, those are just some handy shortcuts that I have found very useful when working with Google Sheets, and I think you will too. Again, undo and redo, I have a tendency to hit these little arrows as much as I do using the control commands. Just depends on my mood. But for select all and selecting the row or the column, I think these shortcuts are awesome. I think they come in very, very handy to allow you to just select the data within a table, especially because there are a lot of times when that's what you want to do. And if it's a big worksheet with a lot of data, then that's a very quick way to do it as opposed to clicking and dragging, trying to drag down to row 300. You do it this way. Anyway, that's it for lesson 5. Again, a little bit of a shorter lesson. Just wanted to give those shortcuts to you so you can start using them, practicing with them, getting them in your mind, because it takes a while to get those shortcuts in your brain so that you can use them. So make up a spreadsheet and play with them a little bit so you can get those in there so you can use them going forward. Don't forget, if you have any questions, feel free to post them in the comments below. I'll do my best to respond to those as quickly as I can. Please click that like button on this video. Subscribe to my channel. Check out my other videos. I have lots of other product reviews and tutorials and different I have a vlog with just fun stuff throughout my day, so feel free to check that stuff out. Favorite this playlist to keep up specifically with future lessons in this series, because there is a lot more to come. Anyway, that's it for this one, so have a great day.